Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session. This is our final online session, ever, hopefully, but also for the term. Kind of the plan is we're going to do a kind of a recap of kind of everything. So looking back at all of the stuff we've done, and then we've all put together and made a fun video for the end as well. So it's gonna just be a kind of sit and watch everything happen type of training. So hand over to I think Ollie, who's gonna do the first bit.
I thought I was going to do the first
Phoebe's
bit.
gonna do the first bit. Yeah, no.
Okay, good. Glad
Smooth
we're all on the
sailing.
same page. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Ah, no. I really hate playing things in this. So sad. Okay. So first things first, I'm going to be talking about a bit of vert stack and just like very like standard cutting stuff, taking it back to like proper basics. So it's kind of a verse that this is straight off the pull, so people are still running through. But we have our handlers here. I think Carver or Henry, one of them runs through, and then we have our stack. So you can see Akka and someone is here at the back, and they're currently first cut. So does anyone? I kind of said it wasn't going to be interactive, but I'm making it interactive. So please put stuff in the chat. Does anyone remember when way back when we were talking about cutting, what any of the three main types of cuts that we can do in frisbee? Just put any of the ones you can think of in the chat. Good cuts. Yeah. So that's, I'd say, overall, all cuts done by bears are good cuts because we've had such great coaching this year. But yeah, Ollie G is absolutely smashed everyone out of the park with all three. So we have smart cutting, commitment cutting, and shoulder cutting. So if we remember, smart cutting is it's basically just generally when you're using what the person marking you is giving you. So, for example, if the person marking you has like their hips facing completely deep, then you can quite easily cut in front of them and get an under before they've even had time to turn their hips around. And then commitment cutting is when we run, like we commit running in one direction and then we sharply turn and come under or deep in like the opposite direction. And then shoulder cutting is when we use our shoulders or our hips to like fake a cut into someone to push them back and then cut to get free. So I have 3 clips. And if we could have a poll of the 3 options and people just say which one they think it is. So first cut is going to be Dan. Yeah. So what do we think that was? One stands on a poll. Thanks, Dan. So exciting. The last time you'll ever have to do polls for us, hopefully. I can play it again, actually. There's Dan. I mean, often with these, there's not necessarily like one correct answer. A lot of time when people cut, they do like a little bit of both. So just put an answer. It doesn't matter if you're if what you say is different to what I say. Yeah, so I would agree. We have 5 people saying smart cut. That's what I would have said as well. Although he does a little bit of a shoulder cut, maybe as well, potentially. But you can see once the camera goes, his person marking him kind of has his hips facing deep. So Dan comes under and then he has to like 180 around to get free. And then a nice grab. Okay. Next one. This is looking at Neil now. So here. It's a bit far back, but so yeah, some people think smart, some people think shoulder. I think this one is a bit of both. So you can see he kind of um like shoulders fakes a bit to get free here. But then the thing that's smart about it is he uses that his opponent like takes a step back off of that to then cut under, which is like the smart option. Cool. Last one. So we're looking at Ben here. Unfortunately, you can't really see the rest of the cut, but oh, what a grab! Wow. Unfortunately, it was not called in, but I think they go on to score anyway. Pure speed. Yeah, so that's a pretty classic commitment cut. He goes under and then runs completely deep, but also very speedy. That helps with cutting. Okay, cool. So, next thing we again have that stack setup, but now we're going to be thinking a bit back to when we did dump preset. So I think Hannah has a couple other clips of dump preset later, but yeah. So dump preset. This man's been in the way. But so we have Carver's just picked up the disc from the pull, and then this clip is not the one I was thinking of. Anyway, so they're talking about dump presets and then continuations off of the dump. So if we remember when we did dump continuations, the one golden rule of dump continuations is that if the disc is thrown forwards, then it's the back of stack is the continuation. And if the disc goes backwards, then it's the front of stack that's continuation. So here, Carver's going to throw this through to Dan. And we see the disc went forwards very slightly, so it's Neil is the continuation cut from the back of stack. And he gets that. And then we have, this is the dump reset where Carver gets faked by Neil and then runs up the line and Dan comes back to get the disc. And then when Dan gets to this is going backwards, so we have Henry coming from front of stack to get the disc. Yeah, unfortunately in this one, Neil is not the continuation in the second one, unlike we saw in the previous video that we did on dump continuations. But he wasn't the first one, so close enough. Okay, cool. So that's like the main things from like standard vert stack. So now it's just the last thing from me. We're gonna think back to doing zone. So I don't think we actually did a video on zone defense, but we did talk about zone offense. So we can see Birmingham coming down with a zone. So this is the arrowhead zone, which is the same one that we do. So we have the chase, who's number 52, and then 2 barbs who make a triangle formation with the chase and then run around following the disc. And then our mid And then I've lost one of the Birmingham players. I assume they're off the screen somewhere. So the mid, and then 2 wings, and the deep, something like that. So does anyone remember when thinking about zone offense, any of the 3 main ways to get through a zone or like make progress against a zone? No. Okay, well, Dan, you've played a lot against the zone. Surely, what would you do if you're Akash? What are the 3 options you're looking for? Yeah. So Hannah says swing, swing. So that is a very easy way to keep the disc moving. Dump, swing, or dump, go. Yeah. So the reason we really like swinging is because, for example, Akash through the disc to Carver, then the zone's going to have to run over and get on Carver, so he has some time to potentially maybe like get an up the line and use this space here. And yeah, dump and go / give and go is the second main thing. So this is using lots of like really short passes and lots of crashes into this central like zone area to keep the disc moving. And then the last one is just throwing over the top of the zone. So Akash could do like a sick hammer over here or something cool. And then what are they going to do about it? Probably nothing. So just some examples. So here we have a bit of a swing, and then Akash is here trying to do some like the give and go / crashes. So that's how we're moving up for the first bit. It's just passing between the 2 handlers. Okay, so here we actually have a call being made. So it's kind of hard to see, but the call made is that Akash like handed the disc over to Carver instead of actually throwing it. So it never actually like, left either of their hands. In a bit. Yeah, this bit here. I mean, a bit of an argument still happened, but Akash ends up not contesting it. So it's uncontested. Does anyone know what happens here? I guess the options being Akash takes it back, it's a turnover, or Carver keeps it, or turnover, turnover, turnover. Yeah, sad. Yeah, this is very sad turnover, unfortunately. Yeah, but if it was contested, then it goes back to the last uncontested person with possession. So it would go back to Akash. But yeah, very sad. Luckily, Bears are great on defense, so we get it back very quickly. Maybe 45 seconds later. So here you see Adam, he gets it and he just literally throws it completely over the top of the zone. So now the zone's all completely behind and they have to run through, and it gives us a bit of potential momentum. So at this point the zone set back up and now we do some nice swinging. I would have sung it again, but yeah, I guess you saw the option. Yeah, a bit of a sad. A very close grab from Carver. But yeah, those are the main things to be thinking about whenever you're coming up against a zone. The most important thing is just trying to keep the disc moving. And then I guess if you're like stall 9, but you see a very good opportunity, then just yeet it over the top. Yeah. These are that's all from me. So I don't remember who we said was next.
I think it's Oli. Oli's next.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go next. Is that right? Right, can you see that?
Yep.
Cool. So I'm going to be going through a bit of indoor stuff, mostly should just be a recap of what we did when we did the indoor stream. So for this first one, we're just going to play a minute of footage, and all I want to know is what kind of defense are the Incredibears playing? Really, I had to include this clip because it's the only time we score. So shouldn't be too difficult to work out if you watched the stream or have played Frisbee indoors before. Max says house. House is of course correct. That's the kind of defense that we play when we play a zone with two forces, two people in the middle, and one person deep. Right. Moving on. So next up, what I want to know is Bears pick up the disc, and we're seeing Paddy in the end zone. So again, probably don't need a poll for this one. Just what kind of cut does he make here? And we just see him come back there. So I'll just give you a few seconds, have a think. Again, should be pretty simple to know that he's doing a bounce cut, which is where we go horizontal across the pitch laterally, and then we cut back and come in the other way. Now you can see there that Paddy's got quite a lot of separation. So if I could have a poll for this one, what kind of throw should Dan use to find him? Should he do a high release backhand? Should he come all the way across and throw a flick? Or should he throw a scuba over the top? Few seconds to have a think and make a choice. So most of us saying scuba, which is definitely going to be the right option. We probably don't have enough time to come all the way around and throw a flick. Also, that's the side the force is on, so we probably don't want to do that. High backhand's probably a good option if you're, really, really good, but much safer to just throw a scuba and allow the disc to sit up nicely for the receiver to run onto it and catch the disc. Definitely the best option in that situation. Okay. So, last one from this game. So, Val's got the disc there, and the disc has been tapped in. What is the name of the kind of defense that the Incredibears are playing in this point? Again, don't probably need a poll, just give you a few seconds to have a think of what it's called. And shouldn't be too difficult to know that this is flood, and it's the kind of defense we play when the other team has the disc at the front of the end zone. Now, what you're going to see is Val's on disc at the moment. She's going to swing it across to me, number 84. Which person should come and pressure me when I get the disc? Should it be Graham, who's probably closest to me? Should it be, I think that's Dan. Is it Ben Young? Not sure. Next to him because Graham's got someone to mark. Or should it be Kerry because she's the force in when we play this kind of defense? Sid's giving it away there. That's cool. So yeah, it's going to be Kerry. So in this kind of defense, we have one person force. They chase around the disc and are always the one doing the forcing, doing the stalling. Very tough job. Thankfully, they don't have to do it for too long because Graham manages to get the D there. Okay, so moving on to the next game. All I want to know this time, if everyone can see that, is what makes the defense here so effective. Is it the fact that they're poaching really well? Is it the fact that they're doing lots of good switches? Or is it that their man defense is really tight? As we watch the point play out. You can see they're being forced backwards. They can't make any progress forwards. And in the end, they take a really big deep shot that doesn't quite work out. Defense clearly did a very good job there. What did they do? What did they do very well? Pretty split voting so far. Give you all a few more seconds. Okay, so we'll wind it back. Options very split on this case. The offense probably isn't doing the best job that they could, but you know they should be a pretty good team. So the defense does a really good job poaching here. You can see that they're poaching off the dump, trying to prevent options in the middle of the pitch, forcing the disc backwards, and again they're poaching off, not allowing anyone through the middle. Of course, there aren't exactly people trying to enter the space, which is definitely bad offense, but the poaching is still really good, and in the end they feel like they're forced to take a deep option, which is a very tough look from the corner of the end zone. Okay, so next up, we're going to see Dan come through the middle and receive a pass. And we see Sid bust it deep. And as you can see from, he's got a lot of separation from his man. So Dan's going to look to try and find him in the end zone. What kind of throw should Dan use? Should he use a scuba, a hammer, or a roll curve flick? If he wants to find Sid in the end zone. Yeah, definitely a flick in this case. You can see that the force is on, well, forcing flick, so allowing the flick to be thrown. And Dan's going to be able to pull that off basically every time for the score. Okay. So next up, we see Jesse pick up the disc. This one's not going to be a poll, just something to talk about. And as Bears, we really like to just, as soon as we pick up the disc, look to throw it under straight away. In this case, we see the defense is going to spot that, poach off, and manage to get the D. So at times, poaching is about, you know, like a team strategy, and it's sort of your whole sort of philosophy that you want to poach off. But other times, it's just situational. And he's very aggressive in what he decides to do. He reads the play well and manages to force the turnover. If we just watch it one more time, that he goes really early, knows that's what Jesse wants to do, and manages to intercept it very well. Okay. So next one. So Iona picks up the disc, throws it into the middle of the pitch, and Dan's going to look up and he's going to see Sid in the end zone. Now, Dan and Sid have a lot of chemistry, played a lot together. So Dan's going to look to find Sid in the end zone for the score. Sid's going to do a nice little bounce cut, and he's going to get free in the top left-hand corner of the end zone. what throw should Dan use to find him? Should he use a scuba, a nice low release flick, or should he throw a hammer? Behind the back, could do. If only the force wasn't in the way. Yeah, lots of votes for hammer. Definitely the right option. Sid makes a nice cut, nice little bounce cut, and they get a very easy score. Okay. Right. So Dan swings it across to Val, and Val's going to spot that the force and the person that's marking Sid are both on the same side. That means there's a huge gap over here for Val to throw the disc. But what throw should she use? What throw should she use to find Sid in the end zone? Should it be a hammer, a scuba, or a roll curve backhand? Bit trickier, this one. Bit more. Or an IO flick, definitely possible. Most votes are backhand here. We could throw a hammer, but there isn't really a need to because there's so much space and there's no force in the way. It's much easier, much more high percentage to just throw a backhand, which is what she ends up doing and completing the pass to Sid. In the end, probably should throw it just that little bit harder, but in the end, doesn't matter anyway, and they get the score. Okay. And just a last one from me that I'm putting in just because Dan's doing all the polls. Question is, if we watch me here on this play, what do you think I should have done differently? The answer, of course, is pretty much everything. If we watch the play again, I'm pretty much constantly looking at the disc and never actually look at Dan until it's far too late, and then end up getting skied. Rather unfortunate. Hit him. Could have. Much more effective than what I tried, which wasn't a lot. Okay, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed. Don't give up positioning, definitely. Just allowed him straight past.
Thank you very much. Cool. On to me. Whoa. What I'm putting up first. Yeah, so I have a little bit more on some dump stuff. So oh, Dan, don't. Dan spent the whole of pretty much after this afternoon cussing some pictures of videos of Graham. How rude. Cool. So yeah, a little bit more on front continuation stuff. There's stuff that we've already done, so we'll just watch the clip through and then chat about it afterwards. Yeah, so this is what Phoebe was talking about at the beginning, where we have this person on the sideline, I look upfield for a very short amount of time and then look straight to my dump. And then we have the the dump reset going through, so Phoebe goes up the line, we have Val come under, and we have a nice free pass. And then our continuation, as it went backwards to the dump, is from Jasmine, who is front of stack. So just a nice example. Yeah. And then we have the same thing going again. And we can just keep on doing this forever. Nice. So that's just a quick example of what we looked at before. Nice. And again, we'll just watch the clip through and then So if we see here, it's got just really nice upline continuations. So really using, kind of killing Leicester with just running upline, and another upline cut there to score. So you can see how important kind of making sure that our dump reset kind of keeps going and is doing the right thing. So Nathan decides not to throw for them, so he just goes to dump reset, which is fine. Maybe he didn't like the options. And then same with Will, decides not to throw it, looks at the dump reset, does the same thing. And then we have a cut by Drew, and a nice leading throw from Nathan to kind of put it into the end zone. So yeah, those are just two good examples of kind of our dump. Cool, nice. So we're gonna take a wander back to one of our other sessions where we looked at horizontal stack, and specifically in horizontal looking at different spaces in it. Can anybody remember what the name for the spaces we had was? So it was to do with whether we should kind of throw into the spaces and whether they were better or worse than other spaces. I don't know if anybody remembers. Weak, yeah. Yeah, so one of them we call them weak space, and then the other one was a strong space. So if we just watch this, so we see that Brute Squad are playing a horizontal stack here. So we've got 3 people back, and we've got 4 people cutting. So if we just watch the clip. Cool. So if we go back to the beginning, and we see that we have a kind of a dump reset going on. So as we've got kind of more space of horizontal stack, some of our dump resets are kind of more like you're in the center of the pitch when you're playing vert stack. So we see quite a nice kind of leading dump reset going on here. She kind of pushes forwards to give herself lots of space, and then catches it, ready for her player to run deep, which gives great opportunity. Can anybody remember the name of kind of the position this person is in now? Power. Yeah, so this is a power position where she's got all of her momentum going forwards. She doesn't have her player in front of her, and therefore she can chuck it deep if she wants to. I don't know how long it goes on to that. But yeah, so it's seeing vertical deep cut, which is what this person's doing, and then it's a really strong cut because it's near the border of kind of the weak space, which is next to the sidelines, and means that because it's not straight in front of the throw, it's a lot easier to throw to. So she yeets it deep, and then she can the player running deep can then just go and run towards it as well. Interesting choice for a backhand, but you know, it worked. Woo woo! Score! Nice. So we have another strong weak example. Nice. So can anybody identify where the strong spaces are in this kind of picture? So we have kind of left side of the pitch, middle pitch, and then right side of the pitch. I don't know if Dan can do a poll. But does anybody know where the strong spaces are? Thanks, Dan. Yeah, so we saw another kind of reset going on here. They're still playing a horizontal stack, sorry. So we have 4 across and then 3 back. But we had a reset going across the front, kind of open up a little bit more space, so that we can have someone going deep. So we have, where is strong? Left, right, middle, end zone, or off pitch. Ha 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 ha. Nice. Nobody's voted yet. We have 2 for middle. Should we take a look? So kind of, I mean, it's kind of middle, but middle right side, just because it's the space kind of in front of her player. So I would say the strongest bit, which is the bit that they kind of identified with the arrows, is this kind of bit between the weak and the strong space, which we saw before, which means that the player can kind of throw it for the other player to run onto. So I think we see this happen. They throw it and therefore they can run onto it. Beautiful. Nice. Nice. So our final one, we'll just watch it through for weak and strong spaces. So this one's a little bit more messy, but we still have that kind of strong and weak spaces, and that we have our person running deep on the border in between both of them. So they run straight deep and then they go towards the disc, and it makes it a lot easier to catch it. So that was just a quick recap looking at some, well, deep cuts but also horizontal. Nice. I'm gonna reshare my screen now. Applications. We're just gonna, I think one of these we've watched before, but this is just a look at some defensive handler switching, and hopefully you should be able to hear this.
UDL fans, Daniel Cohen here with the Tiger Bomb Film Room. Today we're going to be looking at how the Raleigh Flyers use defensive switches to contain opposing handlers. Now, controlling the opposing team's handlers, meaning keeping them from gaining power position, is an important component of every defensive scheme. Effective switches are going to prevent handlers from catching the disc with forward momentum, making it much more difficult to move the offense. In this clip, we see Harper Garvey and Jabron Meeser of the New York Empire looking to move the disc with handler motion. Flyers defenders Andrew McKelvey and Tim McAllister do a great job containing Garvey with well-coordinated switches. So McKelvey initially leaves Garvey in the backfield, choosing to set a double team on Meeser. As Meeser dishes it back to Garvey, notice how Tim McAllister makes a move to stop the throw, and he lets his momentum immediately take him towards Garvey, even though that wasn't the man he was guarding prior to the double team. What happened was McAllister was in a better defensive position to quickly get to Garvey, so that's why the switch happened. After Garvey gets the disc, he immediately tosses it back to Meeser, which leaves McAllister off balance and unable to stay in front of his man. As Garvey runs by him, he points to McKelvey, indicating McKelvey should now cover Garvey, again because he's in a better defensive position to do so. This switch causes Garvey to change his cut, so he moves back to where he cut from and basically tries the same thing again. In response, the Flyers defenders switch back, with McAllister now covering Garvey and McKelvey on the mark. Again, Garvey is forced to change his cut, this time turning his upfield cut into more of a horizontal cut, significantly limiting the yardage gained on the next throw. Because of the effective switching, the Empire are unable to get anything going on offense, and sure enough, they turn the disc over just a few throws later. Thanks for watching, everyone, and be sure to join us next time in the Tiger Bomb Film Room.
Cool, so that was just a quick look at kind of switching and poaching a little bit, so nice. Well, cool, we have another video from some coachy people at the ADL, and they're looking at side stack, but specifically a set play. So we looked at this a little bit before, but this is maybe a little bit more detailed.
Mario O'Brien, this is the Rise Up Coaches Cut. Today we're going to look at how the Madison Radicals used a set play called a flood to create an easy huck look against the San Jose Spiders. Now, one of the keys to good offense and the keys to a good set play is how you create space. As the disc gets centered to Andrew Brown, most of the Radicals are set up on the right side of the field in a side stack with one cutter, that's Colin Camp, isolated in lots of space right in front of the thrower. Now, Camp is actually out there as a decoy, and you can see as he starts his cut, the front two players from that side stack sprint across the field. And what that does is create a huge amount of space underneath for Dave Wiseman. Now, this play works because that defender that far back in the stack is usually expecting the offensive player to use the big wide open space, but when you clear out those two underneath players, the open space changes and hopefully you attack it before the defense can react. Now, when you call a set play, you usually call not just the first throw, but also the continuation. And in this case, it looks like Wiseman was looking for his man deep. He made the catch, saw his defender fly by, and immediately looked to that deep space. So to run an effective set play, remember, it's all about creating that space. Not every set play is going to work out and get you a goal like this one did, but at the very least, it gets your offense moving and it gives you a plan of attack.
Dave Wiseman lets it fly. Pat Trywise in the end zone.
Wiseman cranked at that throw. That was definitely one of the better executed hucks this game.
Yeah, you see him wind and just deliver this. I mean, he just looks like a Sasquatch.
Cool, so a quick look at maybe why you should do set play sometimes and a certain set play in
I quite like going for Mendy, so West Brom has
a certain set play in side stack. And kind of the final session that we looked at before we handed over to some guest coaches, we looked a little bit about pulling. So we'll just take a little look at the X step again.
Or of the huck.
Which is the final thing.
When pulling, you're going to get a little extra distance by performing what's known as an X step. And that's where you leap into the throw, and in the air, while your upper body is counter-rotating your lower body, you're going to find your non-dominant foot. So for me, my left foot is going to come in behind my right foot, and then it's going to land first, then my right foot, and then I'm going to execute the pull. And that's going to add plenty of distance if you can do that explosively. So you don't want that process to be a lethargic or slow movement. You want to really explode into that X step and try to use your lower body to help torque your upper body.
Cool, so that was a quick recap on X step. Can anybody tell me if they remember what any of the other things that we looked at when we looked at pulls? So there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different other things that we kind of looked at when we looked at pulls. Can anybody remember any of them? Yeah, indeed. So pre-cocking your wrist to make sure, as you see, he's doing it here, but this is one thing that this guy gives tips on, so maybe trying pre-cocking your wrist. We have where your head is, yep, so making sure that you're looking backwards and then turning and throwing it forwards, and your head kind of follows through. The IO, yeah, so throwing with IO to kind of get the furthest distance on your pulls. It depends on what kind of weather conditions you're pulling in. Obviously, throwing IO when it's super windy, crosswind, sometimes isn't the right thing to do. The hip angle thing, yeah. So making sure that you're bending at your hips instead of bending over your back, so you can get the most power. Your disc in line with your arm, yeah, touching your palm, yeah. So making sure there's no gap in between your disc, the disc and your palm, perfect. And then disc in line with your arm. Yeah, so like looking here, making sure that everything's in line, so when you're putting the most power into it, you can really make sure there's no air resistance on the disc at all. There was one more thing, if anybody can remember. No? So the final thing that he kind of goes through is having a straight spine. So I suppose that links kind of into the hip angle, but yeah, having a straight spine. So yeah, that was kind of a oh yeah, I unshared my screen. That was kind of a recap of all of the stuff that we have done over this term and last term, just to kind of refresh your memory before we hopefully go back to doing some actual frisbee stuff. Thanks for coming, everybody. Hope you have a good rest of day, and yeah, we will be doing some person coaching, as we've definitely missed out on a lot of that recently. So well, this year. So we shall see you in Easter and then after that. But thanks for coming. Bye.